Exposed. The heartwarming truth about Bambi's incredible impact on 100,000 lives during World War II. In the small town of Maplewood, a war raged not just on distant battlefields but within the hearts of its people. Will Parker, a 16-year-old boy with hope shining from his deep brown eyes, stood at the center of this storm. His father, drafted into the army, was just one of the countless men taken away, leaving behind a wounded home where grief clenched at every corner. Will worked tirelessly at the local cafe, a forgotten haven that smelled of fresh coffee and warm pastries, echoing the laughter of a simpler time. But today, it felt heavy, cloaked in anxiety as the sounds of a world at war hummed outside. One afternoon, as Will swept the floor, he stumbled upon a dusty reel-to-reel projector hidden behind old coffee tins. Curiosity gleamed within him. With a flick of a switch, the projector came to life, illuminating the room with scenes of a gentle fawn Bambi. As he watched Bambi navigate a world of beauty and sorrow, Will found himself deeply touched. The little deer's adventures mirrored his own. Love, loss, friendship, and family. The mix of emotions churned inside him, igniting a spark of hope he believed could heal his grieving neighbors. I need to show this to everyone, he thought, heart racing with a vision. What if they all remembered joy? Gathering strength from his passion, he proposed a town-wide screening of Bambi, believing that in those flickering images, he could remind his community of love and connection, the very threads that could stitch up their wounds. However, Will's determination was met with skepticism. Why focus on a film when we're struggling to eat? A voice murmured from the shadows of the cafe. Tensions erupted as conversations ratcheted up with fear and resentment. All around, whispers of individual struggles clouded his vision. While Will envisioned unity, there was something deeper at play, a disquieting grief that had his own mother trapped in silence, bearing the weight of widowhood as she fought to keep the family afloat. As the screening day approached, tickets for a flashy concert drew attention like moths to a flame. Will felt crushed, his resonance with Bambi overshadowed. What if no one comes? He worried, his heart tightening. Then the storm struck, a fierce cascade of rain and wind that rumbled through Maplewood, forcing townsfolk inside the cafe where Will's screening was set. With water pouring outside, he stood before anxious faces, the projection flickering behind him. Bambi's story isn't just a movie, Will began, his voice trembling yet powerful. It's about hope. It's about loss. It's about family and finding joy amidst chaos. As the words poured from him, he felt the tension lift. He spotted a tear running down an old man's cheek, shared smiles catching on the corners of lips. The flickering scenes of Bambi danced against their hearts, reminding everyone of something important. They were not alone in their struggles. Yet, just as laughter replaced the whispers, doubts echoed in the background. Questions loomed large. What did it really mean to sacrifice? Could they be a community again? With rain beating against the windows like a heartbeat, Will held his breath, hoping this might be the moment that would bring them together, or break them apart forever. As the screen came alive with Bambi's first timid steps into a world both beautiful and cruel, all eyes were locked in, teetering on the edge of revelation. As the vibrant scenes of Bambi played on the screen, the cafe filled with a palpable energy. Will could see the contrast of emotions in the flickering lights: hope, sorrow, and even a glimmer of joy peeking through the clouds of despair. He felt a sense of purpose budding within him, a fierce determination to break through the barriers of fear that had gripped his community. In the corner, Mrs. Thompson, who had lost her husband to the war, looked up from her coffee cup, her eyes glistening. The pain etched on her face softened as Bambi nuzzled against his mother, an image of love that transcended loss. Will watched as a small smile crept onto her lips. It was a sign. He could feel it in his bones. Maybe tonight was the night they would remember how to feel, how to be together again. Just then, the projector flickered, and a new scene filled the screen. Bambi ventured into the forest, sharing precious moments with friends who supported him through trials. Laughter erupted in the cafe as Thumper's playful antics stole the show, lifting spirits higher. It was a collective release, the tension, the strife all evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Will couldn't help but join in the laughter, his heart soaring. Yet, even amid the joy, Will felt a knot in his stomach. He remembered his mother, her weary face, the lines of worry etched deep. Would she ever find that joy again? Would they? These questions fueled a new urgency within him. He needed to know that the glimmers of happiness they now experienced weren't just fleeting shadows. As Bambi faced challenges and overcame grief, Will saw himself reflected in that story. It was a journey of resilience, and his belief in the film deepened. He stood taller now, stronger. Gathering his breath, he knew he had to share this realization with the crowd. Life is like Bambi's journey, he declared, a fire igniting in his voice. We all face challenges. We may lose what we love, but we must hold on to each other, find joy in the little moments, and dare to leap into the unknown together. There was a hush as his words settled over the crowd, challenging them to think deeply. For a moment, everything felt suspended. The world outside faded, and they were only a community sharing a dream. Will scanned the room, meeting the glances of his neighbors. He saw hope flash in many eyes, even in his mother's, a relational bridge forming across the unspoken silence. Then, just as the atmosphere felt electric with possibilities, a loud crash shattered the moment. The heavy door of the cafe swung open wide, forcing a gust of wind that swept through the room, scattering papers and rattling mugs. Faces turned, startled and confused. What was that? Someone gasped, the moment of connection wavering like the flickering image on the screen. Will's heart raced. Was it merely the storm, or an omen that darker times loomed ahead? As he looked toward the door, dread filled him. Each fearful face in the cafe echoed his thoughts. What could possibly disrupt this fragile moment of healing? The storm raged on outside, but it was inside that Will felt a lightning bolt of conflict brewing. He stepped toward the door, determination coursing through him. Just as he reached for the handle, he looked back at everyone behind him, bracing for whatever awaited them. The moment had arrived, and with it came the chance to face their fears head-on. Would they choose to stand together, or would the shadows pull them apart once more? What awaited them in the tempest? Would this be the end of hope, or the beginning of a new chapters? As Will braced himself, the door swung even wider, knocking against the wall with a resonating thud. The wind howled like a siren, and outside, rain lashed against the pavement, illuminating the darkened street with flashes of lightning. The once cozy cafe seemed to shrink under the weight of that storm. But Will saw something else, an opportunity. Stay together, he shouted, forcing his voice above the roar. Don't let fear take this moment from us. He could feel eyes on him, a mixture of fear and hesitation flickering like candle flames in a draft. But he also sensed a spark igniting a collective recognition that they were not alone in this chaotic moment. I can't go out there, Mrs. Thompson murmured, clutching her cup with shaking hands, her voice trembling. What if before she could finish, a blast of wind pushed inside again, causing the lights to flicker ominously? We could be stronger together, Will insisted, taking his first step outside, rain soaking him in an instant. We owe it to each other to witness what's happening. Let us face the storm. The force of the elements met him, but he stood firm, heart racing, feeling alive. Faces began to peer out from behind tables, hesitating but curious. Slowly, with every breath, more people followed him, stepping out of their comfort zones and into the stormy night. Look, Will pointed to the gathering clouds overhead. Just like Bambi in the forest, we can learn to adapt to our challenges. We don't have to hide. We can be brave, share our burdens, and work through this together. As he shouted those words, a flash of lightning lit up the street. In that moment, something shifted. Will's mother stepped forward, her eyes fierce with determination. She joined him at the door, wiping the worry from her face as if the rain was washing away years of grief. With a sigh that mingled relief and resolve, she called out, "Come on. If we face it together, we'll stand a chance." Her words propelled others forward. In that stormy night, they moved, the group spilling outside like a river breaking from a dam. They were together now, each one supporting the other, rallying under a shared resolve born from vulnerability. As rain drummed down, laughter echoed amidst the thunder. Thumper's escapades flashed in Will's mind how he bounced back even when faced with the toughest situations. Here, outside, they were rewriting their own tales, pooling strength to face what lay beyond the safety of their cafe. But would their newfound courage hold? The wind howled even louder, a sound almost sinister, as if whispering threats of a greater storm ahead. Just when they began to feel invincible, a shadow loomed in the distance. Will squinted, heart racing once more. "Everyone, look!" he shouted, turning back to his friends, a surge of unease slashing through his newfound confidence. "What is that coming toward us?" The group turned, eyes widening as they stared into the dark, rolling fog creeping closer, swallowing the light. The sense of unity Toby felt moments ago began to splinter. Would this be the test that truly defined them? In that moment, the questions loomed heavy in the air. Did they have enough strength within themselves to face whatever shadow was approaching? A silence fell as they braced for what came next. With hearts pounding in unison, they prepared for the unknown. What would emerge from the darkness? Would this newfound light they had discovered endure the test ahead? The fog rolled closer, engulfing the group in an eerie embrace. Will's heart pounded, each beat almost a warning. He glanced around, searching for reassurance in the eyes of his friends, but all he saw were fixated gazes, uncertainty etched across their faces. "Stay calm," he shouted again, trying to instill some semblance of courage. "Whatever it is, we're in this together." His voice trembled slightly, overwhelmed by adrenaline and fear. The wind howled, pulling at their clothes, reminding them of the storm still raging. Mrs. Thompson took a step closer to Will, her frail figure illuminated for a moment by another flash of lightning. "It feels like it's coming to take us," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. "What if no?" Will interrupted, determination settling on his brows. "We're stronger than we look. We won't let fear take control." He could sense the hesitation in the crowd, understand their thoughts swirling like the mist around them. But he knew they needed to believe to stand firm. "Remember what we spoke about," he continued, warming to his own encouragement. "Just like in stories, when the moment gets tough, that's when we find our courage." Thumper didn't back down, and neither will we. The reference made a few people smile. With a collective breath, they stepped forward, each inch a challenge, yet exhilarating. Building trust amid the crackling energy in the air felt transformative. Will turned to face the darkening fog, feeling a tingling sensation course through him, grounding him to the present, binding him to his friends. Suddenly, from within the shadow, a glimmer emerged, a faint spark against the overwhelming gray. "Look," someone gasped, pointing. A small, flickering light drifted forward, illuminating the darkness surrounding them. "A lantern," shouted Toby. As the figure approached, they made out a silhouette, a young woman holding a small oil lantern, its feeble glow pushing against the oppressive fog. The closer she came, the more recognizable she became. It was Lucy, the barista from the cafe, her face radiant despite the storm. "I've come back for you," she called, her voice steady amidst the rising winds. Jubilant shouts erupted from the group. They rushed toward her, pulling her into their fold as she shared bits of warmth through her radiant smile. "I knew you wouldn't let fear win," Lucy beamed. But even in their newfound joy, as the circle embraced her tightly, Will's gut churned. Who else might still be out there, lost to the storm? He pulled back slightly, anxiety creeping in the shadows of his thoughts. "Where were you?" he asked, looking deeply into her eyes. "Together. The storm had to be faced. I couldn't let it break us apart." Her words resonated, filling him with a strange mix of pride and concern. More flashes of lightning revealed the weight of the fog, and Will felt again the gravity of their burden. "We need to keep moving." He gestured ahead into the downward path of the street, the lantern leading them through. "We can't stop, not now." As they set off, the fears retreated slightly with each step, But will couldn't he shake the feeling nagging at him? What if this was just the beginning of their trials? A guttural roar echoed in the distance, shaking his thoughts. The storm above us capitulated with fury, and they halted in fear once more. What was that? Someone murmured, eyes wide with dread. With his heart pounding, Will turned, every fiber of his being alert. Would they survive whatever new challenge lay ahead? What haunted threat lurked behind the veil of darkness nearby? The roar faded, leaving only the pattering rain and the anxious breaths of Will's friends. He could see panic flaring in their eyes, a flicker of doubt seeping into their spirits. We need to move, now, he urged again, his voice firm but not without a trace of urgency. With Lucy at the front, they pressed on, the slim beam of the lantern lighting their way like a fragile beacon against the swirling shadows. The fog clung to them, thick and oppressive, wrapping around their legs like unseen chains. Will felt the chill of the night creep deeper into his bones, strengthening his resolve. They couldn't let fear win, not after coming this far together. Then, a second, more animalistic sound reverberated from the darkness. Closer this time. A collective gasp broke from the group. Will's heart raced faster. Keep moving. Stay close. The last word came out more as a plea than a command. The narrow street twisted and turned, and with each step, the lantern's glow flickered uncertainly, casting dancing shadows on the slick pavement. Lucy walked beside Will, her presence a comfort in the uncertainty. What do you think it is? She asked breathlessly, glancing back towards the sound. I don't know, Will admitted, but whatever it is, we can't let it chase us off the path. We have to stick together. He felt a surge of determination course through him as he glanced at each of their faces. Toby, Mrs. Thompson, and the others. Fear etched across their features, but there was something else too: resilience. Their footsteps quickened, the echoing roar fading into the background as wind rustled through the trees lining the street. Each gust seemed to whisper its own warning, but Will refused to stop looking forward. He couldn't let the group down. Not now. As they approached the end of the street, the fog began to part slightly, revealing a clearing ahead. The sight was almost surreal, a thick, lush field bathed in soft, silver light from the thick clouds above. Look, someone shouted, the tension easing slightly as they stepped out from the fog's embrace. But as the last of the mist evaporated, they froze. In that clearing stood a large, dark figure, its outline obscured but unmistakably menacing. The creature, a massive wolf, was silhouetted against the pale light, its eyes glowing like embers in the night. There was no turning back now. Will, Lucy called out, both awe and fear in her voice. Will's mind raced. What do we do? He whispered, the group yanking him back toward safety. He steadied his breathing, heart thrumming in an erratic rhythm. They could either confront the creature or run back into the unforgiving fog. We can't run, he said passionately, stepping forward. What if we can make it understand? We have to show it we mean no harm. The group looked to him, incredulous fear mingling with bold curiosity. He could feel their unity crackle in the air, like electricity ready to spark. Remember why we came here. We didn't let fear dampen our spirits before. Let us try. But just as he steeled himself to move closer, the wolf snarled, revealing gleaming teeth as the air thickened with tension. The creature poised to charge, and Will felt the collective breath of his friends quicken. Then a thought struck. Was fear of the unknown all that stood between them and the creature? With the weight of their resolve, they could either succumb or fight. And he needed to know. Will you stand with me? He challenged, turning to face the group once again. In that moment of powerful silence, uncertainty flickered in their eyes. But what if this encounter was about more than survival? What if it was a test of character, a moment where they could redefine not just their fate, but their understanding of bravery? The wolf's growl echoed once more, this time deeper, a mournful sound that reverberated through the clearing. What would they choose in the face of fear? Would they charge into the unknown or hold their ground and reclaim their courage? Will felt the weight of the moment press heavily on him. All eyes were on him, searching for a leader, for a flicker of hope in the face of something they couldn't comprehend. The wolf, massive and threatening, stood like a dark sentinel against the misty backdrop. Will's heart pounded as he considered the unknown. "Please," he whispered more to himself than to the group. "We can't let fear guide us." As if sensing their hesitation, the wolf lowered its head slightly, its growl subsiding into a low rumble, almost as if it were considering their resolve. Lucy glanced over at Will, her expression a mix of terror and hope. "What if it attacks?" she questioned, her voice trembling. "We won't know until we try," Will replied, trying to infuse a steadiness into his tone. "Animals sense fear. If we show it we mean no harm." Maybe his voice trailed off, the uncertainty gnawing at him. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something wild. If he had ever felt the threat of danger before, it was nothing compared to now. But he rounded the group, meeting each of their anxious gazes. Together, he urged again, raising his chin defiantly. "We need to present a united front." Toby took a cautious step forward beside him. The others followed, pushing through their fear like soldiers bracing for battle. The wolf's eyes, those fierce glowing embers, watched every move. In a moment that felt suspended in time, Will extended his hand slowly, palm open, showcasing vulnerability. "We come in peace," he murmured, hoping the creature could somehow understand. Just then, a sharp bolt of lightning hissed above, illuminating the field in a dazzling flash. The wolf seemed to tense, muscles tightening under its thick fur, but it did not retreat. For a heartbeat, the creature seemed to scrutinize him, as if weighing his intentions against its own instincts. Will felt a rush of wild hope. What if this was a moment of connection, a bridge between two worlds? "I want to hurt you," he continued, his voice stronger now. "We want to help." The wolf's gaze flickered, hesitating as if struck by a wave of confusion. Then, it took a cautious step forward, sniffing the air. Will Lucy's voice was barely above a whisper, gripping his arm tightly. But he felt the electric buzz of their shared courage radiate between them. "Stand firm," he urged, looking back at his friends, and for a moment, even Lucy nodded, her fear battling with a glimmer of hope. And then, something unexpected happened. The wolf sat back on its haunches, the growl dissipating into a sound that resembled a whimper. It was no longer a beast of threat, but a creature in distress. As realization dawned, Will's heart twisted at the sight. "Scared just like us." Suddenly, a memory flickered through his mind, stories of wolves protecting their families, their loyalty. "We're like packmates right now," he said calmingly. "If we can reach out, we might help one another." And one by one, the group edged forward, breaths held, hearts racing. But just as they seemed ready to forge a connection, another roar erupted from deep within the woods, shaking the ground beneath them. The wolf's body tensed, every muscle ready to spring back into action. "What was that?" Mrs. Thompson gasped, terror washing back across their faces. "Is there more out there?" Toby added, panic rising. Will's mind raced. The darkness had more dangers hidden within it, and they may not be alone after all. Just as hopes began to rise, shadows began to writhe menacingly at the edge of the trees. Realization dawned. This moment, this encounter was only the beginning, but would it be a chance for understanding or an invitation to chaos? "Get ready," Will shouted, adrenaline pumping. "We might have a bigger fight ahead." And with that, they braced themselves for whatever was lurking in the darkness, their courage tangled with uncertainty. Would they face not just the wolf, but whatever else lay hidden in the fog? Will's heart raced, pounding against his chest like a drum as the roars echoed through the trees. The shadows swirled and shifted, becoming more than just figments of their imagination. Fear flooded the air, thick and suffocating, as the group huddled closer together, instinctively seeking strength from one another. "Will," Lucy's voice trembled, cutting through the tension. "What do we do now?" He glanced at her, feeling the weight of her gaze. They all needed him now. "We stay together," he replied firmly, his voice steadier than he felt. "If we stick together, we can face anything." The howls intensified, a chilling reminder that the forest had more dangers than just one frightened wolf. The eerie sound wrapped around them, almost taunting, igniting a sickening panic in the pit of Will's stomach. But he couldn't let fear win. Not now. Not when they'd come this far. What if there's more than one? Toby whispered, his eyes wide, glancing nervously towards the tree-line. I don't think I can do this. Will felt a surge of compassion mixed with determination. They were all scared, but together they might just have a chance. Remember the stories we learned? He said, trying to draw on their shared experiences. This isn't the end. This is just the moment when we decide what kind of people we want to be. The wolf was still, watching them, its powerful frame tense but its eyes full of something that resembled hope. Look at that wolf, Will gestured. Scared and confused just like us. We can't lose our way now. We can stand our ground. If it comes for us, what then? Someone asked, their voice barely piercing the thick tension that gripped the group. We're not alone, he replied. We have each other. Taking a deep breath, he took a step closer to the wolf. And we have to trust that it feels what we feel. We need to show it we're not a threat. Will extended his open hand toward the creature again, surprisingly emboldened by his resolve. It's okay, we won't hurt you. As he stepped forward, the shadows rustled again, and with a snap of twigs, a shape emerged, a smaller wolf, with matted fur and an injury on its flank. It limped forward, whimpering softly, seeking help, not fear. Look, Lucy exclaimed, her fear momentarily forgotten as she pointed. The realization hit them all like a wave. This wasn't just a fight. It was a plea for help. We've got to be brave, Will urged, glancing back at his friends. For both of them, they need us. Unease hung thick in the air as they exchanged glances, but one by one, the tension broke. Courage ignited between them, and they stepped forward, offering their hands cautiously to the larger wolf and its wounded companion. Then, from behind them, another roar cracked through the silence, sharper, angrier. Will's stomach dropped. What now? Their moment of connection was under threat. Stay together, he shouted, holding fast onto Lucia's hand, the warmth of her grip a lifeline. He turned to face the darkness with renewed determination. We're not backing down. Will's heart raced. This moment could change everything. But at what cost? Were they ready to defend not just themselves, but these wolves too? The sounds of violence stalked closer, shadows threatening to spill into their fragile sanctuary. Are we going to fight? Someone whispered, uncertainty creeping back into their voices. Together, he replied, his heart thundering louder than ever as they all stood united, facing the unknown. And then, as the first flickers of movement emerged from the dark, Will wondered not if they would survive but what they would discover about themselves before it was all over. Would there be more than just a fight waiting for them in the shadows? The ground trembled beneath them as shadows began to take form. Will's heart pounded like a hammer against an anvil, each thud echoing his resolve. The cold air was thick with fear, but he couldn't let that sway him. He looked into the eyes of his friends Lucy, Toby, and the others. Their faces were a mix of terror and determination. Then, the silhouette moved closer, and another form emerged, a larger wolf, moving swiftly through the brush. The coldness of its snarl cut through the night air, the promise of danger lingering just beyond the veil of shadows. The landscape was no longer just a forest. It had become a stage for an ancient struggle. Would they rise to the occasion? Don't back down, Will shouted, squeezing Lucy's hand, the warmth igniting a flicker of courage within him. The pack was here and they were scared just like them. But the paths they could choose now could lead to bravery or devastation. Could they protect not just themselves, but the helpless creatures facing such a dire fate? As if sensing their fear, the injured wolf let out a soft whine, its gaze shifting between the group and its companion. It was a call for understanding, an invitation to unite against a common enemy. What if they attack? Tobias' voice was thick with anxiety, his eyes darting between the wolves and the shadows that lurked behind them. What if we're making a mistake? Will felt the weight of that question settle heavily on his shoulders. They had to do something, but the risk hung over them like a dark cloud. We have to trust. They're not our enemies. Suddenly, A deafening roar cracked through the silence, cascading through the trees and sending leaves swirling like a storm. The larger wolf stepped back, its ears pinned, trembling slightly. But it wasn't fear that filled Will now, it was a fierce determination. He stepped forward, feeling the heat of anger surging through him, a force compelling him to act. No one deserves to be hurt. Not us, not them, he declared, looking around to face the entire group. We fight for each other. We offer kindness. We show that we can be better. Everyone hesitated before nodding in unison, their willingness to fight igniting a shared spark. Hope was fragile, yet it began to weave through their narrow circle, knitting them closer together. And then, as if sensing their resolve, the shadows erupted forward, revealing dozens of creatures, their intent clear and hungry. Will's breath hitched in his throat as he grasped the sheer chaos surrounding them. Then, out of sheer desperation, he remembered something. We can distract them. Move the wolves back, he yelled. Lucy, Toby, you take the injured one. We'll draw their attention. Immediately, the plan set into motion. Lucy nodded, her eyes alight with a newfound bravery. Got it, she exclaimed, and her focus on the smaller wolf only deepened her resolve. Will faced the advancing figures, yelling and waving his arms to draw them in. He had no idea if this would work, but he felt that sense of family growing stronger. They were more than just kids lost in the woods. They were a team of family. As they scattered, confusion reigned among the advancing figures, just as Will had hoped. With the wolves now retreating to safety, a sense of urgency washed over him. Would this plan really turn the tide in their favor? In that moment, a strange light sparked in Will's heart. They had chosen to fight for love and compassion. Would that really be enough to change their fate? As the shadows closed in, the pack's fate hung in the balance, but Will's heart swelled with hope. He took a deep breath, bracing for the unknown. What would happen next? Would their courage be stronger than the fear waiting to consume them? Would it lead them somewhere they had never even imagined? The chaos erupted like thunder, shadows and shapes twisting in a dance of desperation. Will could feel the wild energy in the air, electric and full of possibility. His friends, Lucy and Toby, darted toward the injured wolf, their movements instinctive and desperate. The atmosphere buzzed with a collective heartbeat. Now, Will shouted, uncertainty boiling in his chest as he flailed his arms to grab the attention of the oncoming creatures. Every nerve screamed at him to run away, but he stood firm. They were there to protect something, to stand against seemingly insurmountable odds. As the shapes of the creatures drew closer, Will could see their eyes glinting in the dim light. They were fierce, hungry. He swallowed hard, his mind racing. This was no longer just about survival. This was about showing that compassion had a place in a world filled with darkness. Over here. He yelled again, shaking his arms wildly, unable to tear his gaze from the advancing figures. The group of shadows began to shift, their attention drawn to him like a moth to a flame. A wave of relief washed over him for that instant, a fleeting moment of success. Will, Lucy's voice pierced through the tumult, a grounding reminder of their mission. She had successfully wrapped the injured wolf in a cloth they had brought, carefully cradling it against her side. We're ready. With a nod, Will glanced back at the swirling chaos ahead. He felt an ancient connection in that moment, like the weight of generations before him urging him forward. Their courage was forged in that instant, a bond unbreakable. Toby, you go with Lucy. Don't look back. A flash of doubt flickered in Toby's eyes. What if no? You have to trust me. Just go. Will shouted again, his voice cutting through the panic. They were all scared, but this was their time to rise above it. Toby nodded, eyes wide with fear and resolve, then sprinted toward the duo. As they backed away with the wolf, Will's focus returned to the encroaching shadows. The creatures were upon him now, teeth bared, growls vibrating in his bones. He took a step back but held his ground, swirling in a realm of instinct and primal urging. Heart pounding, he called out, "We're not here to fight. We just want to help." His voice rang out, a beacon in the dark, though he wasn't sure the words would penetrate the walls of rage. To his surprise, several of the creatures halted, their eyes narrowing, considering. Will felt a surge of hope, like a soft breath of fresh air in a world thick with suffocating darkness. Then, one of the larger figures stepped forward, snarling low but hesitant. It was the wolf, a powerful, majestic beast. It seemed to study him, eyes reflecting unspoken questions. Will's heart raced even faster. Had they shared that bond of understanding he hoped for? The moment hung in the air, and Will found himself entranced, feeling a fierce determination from within. Look, he continued, lowering his arms slightly, we're on the same side here. We are all fighting for survival. Let us not do this. The pack's movements slowed, uncertainty bending their anger. Something was shifting. Will held his breath, each second stretching into eternity as he waited for a sign. But then, out of nowhere, the chaos erupted again. From behind him, a loud crash erupted. More creatures surged forward, relentless and hungry. Will's heart sank as he realized their plan to distract had not been enough. Will, Lucy shouted from afar as she and Toby struggled to get the injured wolf away. In that heartbeat, panic washed over him. They were still vulnerable, still facing a powerful enemy. Would they all find safety? Will's focus sharpened again, fueled by the sight of his friends. Stay strong, he yelled, eyes wide and determined. We fight together. But would their unity be enough to hold back the gathering storm? Would the force of their compassion prevail against such darkness? Will felt the weight of their collective fight against the shadows, and he could only hope their courage would light the way forward. As the chaos around them escalated, Will felt the sheer force of their fears colliding with the weight of their determination. The shadowy figures pressed closer, like a tide in an unforgiving sea, but he refused to let despair choke his resolve. He looked at the faces of his friends, bright with determination or shadowed by uncertainty. They were all counting on him. Stand with me, he shouted, raising his voice above the cacophony. Lucy's eyes flickered with resolve, reflecting the flickering lantern light as she faced the darkness alongside him. With every ounce of courage, he took a step forward, breaking free from the tight grip of his fears. That wolf still looming held a secret. Just like them, it was scared. This can't just end in violence. We can be the light. The growling ceased momentarily. The dark atmosphere thickened with confusion where anger had once reigned. Will's heart danced with the flicker of hope. We're not your enemies, he called again, moving further into the clearing. The tension felt palpable, crackling like electricity as the eyes of the creatures shifted, uncertain. His friends darted into a protective line at his back, forming a human chain against the threat. Remember Bambi's story, he cried. This is our chance. We face fear together just like he did. He caught the eye of Mrs. Thompson, who shot him a brief, glimmering smile of encouragement. Small, yet powerful, it ignited something deep within him. In that moment, something shifted. The force of his words seemed to resonate with the surrounding pack, softening the menacing edges. The larger wolf stepped back, its own growl fading into a deep sigh of understanding, while the smaller, injured wolf hesitated, looking between Will and its companion. Just when it seemed they might transcend anger and forge a truce, another roar erupted from the depths of the woods, louder, more ferocious. Will's heart sank as dark forms emerged, relentless and unyielding. They're coming, someone yelled, the fear clamoring in their voice. Stay together. We protect each other. Will shouted, binding them with urgency. Together they forged a wall against the new threat. Compassion must push back fear. But then, Lucy raised her voice, sharp and clear, breaking through the chaos. Wait, what if we don't fight at all? Her suggestion hung in the air, nascent with the spark of hope. What do you mean? Toby asked, bewilderment swirling within him. Let us show them we want peace. Lucy shouted, excitement bubbling through her fear. If we work together, we can create a safe space. Let us create a circle. Show them we're not a threat. Will felt a surge of exhilaration. Yes, we can do that, He joined with Lucy, shouting, "We want to help. We're all scared. Let us stop this." With renewed purpose, they shifted together, forming a protective barrier around the injured wolf, hands interlocked. "We will not give in to fear," Will declared. The world was quiet again, the tension forming a delicate tightrope. Hope bubbled amidst the darkness, and slowly, tentatively, the threatening wolves began to step back, uncertainty growing in their movements. They began circling around the group that had sidestepped conflict. Suddenly, the silence that followed was electric. The creatures paused, weighing their options against one another, and the newfound resolve emanating from Will and his friends. The glow of the lantern flickered, offering warmth where there had been chilling shadows. In that transformative moment, a ripple of connection blossomed, creating a bridge where anger used to thrive. "This is our day to show compassion," Will shouted, feeling the energy of their unity pulsing brightly. As a testament to their strength, the community's bond shone like a beacon, lighting the way through the enveloping darkness. One by one, the wolves softened, their growls turning to murmurs of curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, they could understand that connection was more powerful than violence. The lead wolf lowered its head, a gesture of surrender. The tension unfolded like wings taking flight, and with it, ripple of acceptance spread among the group. They didn't just stand for themselves, they stood together in their vulnerability. Will exhaled. The tension that had gripped his heart released in waves, forging an unseen bond with these wild creatures. Courage blossomed alongside compassion, and he felt warmth radiate from those beside him, allowing even fear to dissipate in the face of unity. Together, Will's voice rang clear, uplifting everyone, binding them beyond their fears. As the darkness of the woods receded, he realized the battling spirits were no longer at odds. Life had transformed before them, like a sunrise spilling gold across the horizon, erasing the shadows of despair. They had faced their fears head-on and emerged stronger. Their eyes glistened with understanding, a realization deeper than words. They had saved the wolves and, in doing so, saved themselves. What they had found together in the raw chaos was the heart of community. They had shared love, courage, and vulnerability. Will grinned widely, looking around at his friends Lucy, Toby, Mrs. Thompson, and every soul that had made that choice to face darkness together. "There is so much hope left in the world. Isn't there?" They nodded, a collective understanding lighting their eyes. As the last remnants of the storm faded, the wind shifted, and the sun broke free. Strength surged through them, binding hearts in a web crafted from faith and love. If you felt the power of this transformation, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second for their hearts to be lit with hope. Make a difference.